It started with a simple find. Ethan was digging through an old thrift store on the outskirts of town when he found it, a dusty vintage video recorder sitting on a shelf among broken radios and discarded cassette players. Something about it caught his eye. It was in perfect condition, no scratches, no missing buttons. When he picked it up, he felt a strange chill run through his hands, but he ignored it. A tag was stuck to the side, $5, and no returns. He bought it without thinking twice. It wasn't until he got home that he noticed something strange. The battery was dead, yet when he switched it on, the red recording light blinked. It was already filming. That night, curiosity got the best of him. Ethan set up his laptop, connected the old device, and started transferring the footage. The first file was only a few seconds long. It was shot in a dimly lit room with peeling wallpaper. A shadow flickered across the screen, barely visible before the video cut to black. The second file lasted 2 minutes. This time the camera was in motion, slowly creeping down a hallway. A breathing sound could be heard, soft and raspy, too close to the microphone as if someone were standing just behind the lens. Ethan sat frozen, watching as the camera moved toward a closed door. A hand, thin, pale, almost skeletal, reached out and gripped the doorknob. Then static. The third file started playing on its own. Ethan hadn't touched anything. The screen flickered and he gasped. The footage showed his apartment, his living room, his couch, his desk. It had been recorded just minutes ago. A sharp knock made him nearly jump out of his chair. Heart pounding, he stood and approached the door, pausing before opening it. When he finally worked up the courage, there was no one there. But something felt wrong. The air was colder. His skin tingled. Slowly, he turned back toward his apartment. The video recorder was still on the desk, the red light blinking. It was still filming. And on the screen, a shadow stood behind his chair. Ethan barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard soft breathing, a rasping sound that crept through the dark. The air in his room felt heavier, colder. The kind of cold that settled deep in your bones. By morning, his hands were shaking. He decided to destroy the video recorder. He carried it to the dumpster outside and threw it in, breathing heavily, wiping his sweaty palms on his jeans. It was gone. Or so he thought. That night, when he returned to his apartment, the video recorder was waiting for him. Sitting on his desk. The red light blinking. Panicked, Ethan grabbed his laptop and checked the files. New footage had appeared. His finger hovered over the play button. He hesitated, he didn't want to see it, but he had to know. The video began. The footage showed his bedroom. The camera was positioned at the foot of his bed, watching him as he slept. The image was grainy, but something was off. The blankets stirred. A shadow moved beneath them. Then, slowly, his sleeping self began to rise. Not like a normal person waking up. His body jerked upward in unnatural, puppet-like movements. His arms dangled uselessly at his sides as his head slowly twisted around to face the camera. His own eyes stared at him through the screen, dark, hollow, expressionless. And then he smiled. Not a human smile, a stretched, lifeless grin that seemed to tear at the corners of his mouth. The screen flickered. Recording in progress. Ethan scrambled away from the screen, nearly knocking over his chair. His breath came in quick gasps. His hands trembled. His phone buzzed on the desk. A message appeared on the screen. Unknown number, check the video recorder. With shaking hands, he turned his gaze toward it. The red light continued to blink. Another message. Unknown number, watch the last file. The file was marked with today's date. It was only a minute long. Against every instinct screaming at him, Ethan clicked play. The screen was pitch black at first, the sound of static humming in the background. Then something moved in the darkness. A whispering voice. A scraping sound. And then, his own face filled the screen. But it wasn't him. His eyes were sunken, black pits. His mouth was too wide, his skin too pale. The thing in the footage grinned wider and wider until the screen erupted into static. A final frame appeared before the video ended. A single line of text. "You're already recording." Ethan turned around. The video recorder was pointed directly at him. The red light blinked. The last thing Ethan ever heard was a soft, raspy breathing, right behind him,